Come have fun with us and don't forget to subscribe.
What's up everybody, I'm Rick.
And I'm Anna, and welcome to our review of the 1937 movie In Old Chicago. For those of you who are new here, hi and welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, which is dedicated to Rick and mine bucket list of goals and dreams that we hope to accomplish in our lifetimes. And one of those goals for us is to watch every movie that was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards from 1927 to 2028. We are currently at the year 1937, and to this day we have watched 82 movies as part of this goal, the latest of which is the one that we're going to be talking about today, In Old Chicago. Released on January 6, 1938, this 20th Century Fox drama disaster film tells the story of the O'Leary brothers, Honest Jack and Ruggish Dion, who become powerful figures and eventually rivals in Chicago on the eve of the Great Fire.
You know, back then they had a loose definition of what year the movies can come out in, no? Because we had that one movie that came out in 1935 that counted for 36, and this one came out in 38.
Yeah, so it was released in January.
Is included with the 1937 movies.
So, Rick, this movie, what did you think about it?
This movie, you know, it was an okay movie. It wasn't bad. But the whole time I was thinking, doesn't it feel like they've watched San Francisco and thought, hey, we can make this.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
Let's pick our own real life tragedy and then make a movie that it's similar, no? Don't you feel like there are similarities when you watch it?
It's very similar, and
like
you
the
know,
clubs and the...
It's not a coincidence also the proximity to each other. It's only 1 year after.
Yeah.
So
because I'm not even talking just in terms of like, oh, there's the fires and the earthquake on one side and the fire on the other side, but also just the storyline, you know, with the...
Yeah, it does feel like they follow the pattern,
yeah,
you know?
the
singer pattern
lady and the club, and then the guy who like comes into play. It's a weird feeling watching it.
You know, and the politics at play too.
Yeah. It doesn't come close though to San Francisco in my opinion.
I did have the same feeling watching it. And I did actually find some information about that. This movie was indeed an attempt to recreate the success of San Francisco. But they weren't even capable to do all the things that they wanted to do to imitate that movie.
Like it's a different production company, right?
Obviously, so San Francisco is MGM. This is produced by Fox. Fox wanted to rent out Clark Gable and Jane Harlow for this movie. So to even have the same actors, but the MGM producers refused to allow it. For obvious reasons, I think, you know, like, hey, we had a successful movie. Good luck trying to do that too. And yeah, the studio actually acknowledged that that was their intention, to replicate the success of San Francisco. I'm curious, like, where do you think they failed?
I think it's in terms of two elements that jumps at me right away. First, the element that maybe it's more on me than on them is the tragedy itself. There's something about earthquakes that in a way tend to traumatize a bit more. The way how like it comes out of nowhere, instantaneously, everything is destroyed.
It only lasts a few seconds, and in those few seconds, everything can be gone.
And you never know that it's coming, but then it comes and boom, it's over, you know? Fires, in retrospect, you know, there's kind of more of a human element here. Even here, it's kind of a human error that starts the fire. So it seems more controllable, you know?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But that's just in terms of like how grandiose the tragedy is and how like it affects you personally. So that's one thing. And that's more on me than really on the movie. Other thing though, that's on them, is the storyline that precedes the tragedy. Every element of it is less than.
Yeah.
The characters are less interesting than in San Francisco. The story itself is less interesting than in San Francisco. You know, San Francisco works as a movie without the earthquake. And then the earthquake just bring it that much higher.
Yeah.
Here, I feel like the movie starts to pick up when the fire starts, you know?
Oh, I see what you mean, yes.
Because at the center of this movie, we have this brother relationship who, you know, those brothers, they love each other, but they're at odds, they're different, you know, they both become powerful figures in the town, like you said in the synopsis. But the whole time I was thinking, Dion, he's the one who gets his brother to become mayor.
Right.
He does all of this. And I'm thinking, why? Is it because he loves his brother? Or is it because he thought he could manipulate his brother? It's never really clear. Because
is it to his advantage or not?
the brother was clear from the beginning. Here's what I'm going to do if I'm mayor. I'm going to destroy your neighborhood and all it stands for.
Yeah.
And then the brother does become mayor and it's like, what? You're trying to destroy my neighborhood and all it stands for? I hate you now. I thought it was clear.
Yeah, exactly. From my point of view, the thing that kind of makes this movie feel like less than San Francisco is for the most part the characters. Their motivations, even the way the characters were built, you want to understand where he's coming from, and in this case I don't, exactly like you said. But not even just that, also the mother, if you think about it. Her character was so...
She's all over the place.
To me, it feels like her character is one-noted.
Yeah.
She doesn't cry, or she doesn't... Okay, fine, she doesn't cry. You want to portray like that kind of a strong woman, but she doesn't have any reaction when her husband dies. She has an instant, a second of a reaction when her son dies. Mm-hmm. And after that, she just
go into a
goes
monologue,
into
a weird monologue.
Exactly.
About the city rising from its ashes.
Yes, I feel like they wanted to create the character of this like very strong woman who's struggling by herself to raise her family, but they just stripped her off of any kind of emotion in the attempt to create a strong character, and it didn't work.
She has some emotion towards her sons, but it more in the sense of like, this son is doing nothing with his life. I'm angry at him. This son, is a lawyer. I'm proud of him.
Yeah. Also, the sons, the synopsis mentions it too. We talked about it too. The two sons who are at odds with each other for the most part. There's a third son in this story who's not even mentioned.
We see him.
We see him, yeah, exactly. But he's just there.
Yeah.
Like he's almost a background character, or like just someone in the house sometimes.
It's funny because the kids also get over their fathers that very quickly.
Yeah.
They get to Chicago and are like, oh, Dad, who's that?
Yeah, exactly. It's not relatable,
Mm-hmm. It's not because, like, for example, Dion, who's probably the most interesting character here. It's not because he's a morally gray character that it doesn't work. It's because you don't understand where it's coming from.
Exactly.
Clark Gable's character was also morally gray, but you understood him. You understood that he was conflicted. You could see it. Here, I would have liked to see this conflict. I would have liked him to show that, I helped my brother get elected because it's my brother.
Yeah.
And I want the best for him. But I'm also conflicted with, the fact that...
Because now he wants to, he wouldn't do the same for me, He doesn't just think of my well-being, but he just thinks of his platform.
And it felt like this is what was happening here, but it's never really clear, It feels like...
I think that's what they wanted to do, but they didn't really. So the main topic of conversation here is pretty much the characters and their story. So let's look into that a little bit and see who these characters are, who portrays them, and some more information about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
First off, the movie is a fictionalized retale of the Great Chicago Fire from 1871. It was directed by Henry King, who is also the director of another movie that we have watched as part of this Goal State Fair.
I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it too. I didn't necessarily think about it. I had forgotten his name actually as the director. But when I read this, I could see all the similarities between these movies. The movie stars Tyrone Power as Dion O'Leary. And he's here, as you mentioned, the morally gray character, which should be or would be normally an interesting character to follow.
Yeah. Oh, he's the most interesting character
he is,
in
yes,
the movie.
it is true.
But he lacks still that nuance, Towards the end of the movie, you start to see it, but I feel like for the most part at the beginning, for the first 2/3 of the movie, he lacks that nuance.
I feel like what the issue is here is they did with this character the same thing that they did with the whole like concept of the movie, which is they tried to follow a pattern of success.
Yeah.
Without actually like giving him life. Mm-hmm. It's just, he should be like this, you know?
So, inking back to Gable's character, the womanizer, the club owner, the morally gray character, they try to replicate that here.
But who actually does have something like
of
good.
A heart.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Which in the case of Dion O'Leary here, it's the family, his connection to the family.
And we see his love for his mom from the beginning. and his attachment to his brothers. It's just that, again, the main conflict has no nuance until the end.
Yeah, it also doesn't come as powerful as you would expect for something like this, you know? Like when your two worlds collide like this for a conflicted character as he is, you expect it to be like an impact, like an implosion, you know? And I don't feel it. The
Especially
impact is not
because
as strong.
it ends in such a tragedy, not the fire, but the death of his brother, killed because of him basically.
Yes.
And so you would have liked a kind of a better emotional build-up towards that.
The movie also stars Alice Faye as Belle Fawcett. I have to say I kind of liked her character. I feel like they didn't give her enough screen time.
Yeah, I liked her too. This is definitely a movie of its time because at the beginning, her and Dion's relationship, like I was uncomfortable.
Oh yes, I know what you mean.
You know, when he basically forces himself on her and then at some point she just gives in and now they're together and they're in love and happy. It's kind of...
that feels wrong. It feels wrong to watch that and get behind a relationship like this, you know.
And then even throughout the rest of the movie, he kind of treats her horribly, especially when he gets married to her for...
Only so that she can testify against him.
Yeah. And then she's still just there, you know.
I feel like, again, with her character, it did have this interesting nuance of, in the beginning, she was this just, you know, strong, independent woman, businesswoman, as she calls herself. You know, she does whatever is advantageous to her, but you do see her falling in love with him for whatever reason and by whatever means that I cannot support, but you do see that emotional build-up, which I think works pretty well.
Yeah, it does, but it makes for a sad character.
Yeah. The movie also stars Don Amitch as Jack O'Leary. This is the brother who becomes mayor. What do you think of his character?
You know, in a sense, even though we've been saying, you know, Dion, his whole conflict with his brother should have been shown in a more deep way, you know, to explain exactly why there was a conflict to begin with. Well, we know why there's a conflict, but why he didn't understand that his action would result in a conflict when it was made clear. On the other side, Jack's character is kind of the same, but flip side of that, you know?
Okay.
He's not supposed to be great. He's supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, he lacks some gray.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. I feel like even if you want to be the morally righteous one, I mean, as the character, he was built that way. When you do have a brother whose whole storyline kind of pulls in the other direction, you can't just, you know, stand your ground and not move an inch.
Yeah, it's still your brother.
It's your brother. Like, I wish I would have seen that conflict with him too, you know, which we didn't at all. And I feel like, again, that is not a relatable character. That's not realistic. And the movie also stars Alice Brady as Mrs. Molly O'Leary, the mother, whom we have seen before in The Gay Divorcee and Three Smart Girls. What do you think of her character?
I mean, we talked about her earlier. You know, she's a bit disconnected from what's happening around her at the beginning and at the very end of the movie with her husband and her son dying. You know, she gets over it a bit too quick for a realistic person to get over something like that. But during the rest of the movie, you know, she does her job as the mother who disapproves of one son and approves of the other, you know.
So, yeah, as you said, I think we talked about her character. Let's talk about the actress a little bit, because she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and that made her the first actress to have received back-to-back nominations for Best Supporting Actress. She did not win the first one, but she did win this one.
Oh.
And very interesting little fun fact, little story here. At the ceremony where she was supposed to receive her award, she was not present. So someone else, a man, got on stage and accepted the award in her name. However, after the night of the ceremony, the man and the award were never seen again.
Oh, wow.
Nobody knows exactly who that person was. He just got on stage, accepted the award in her name, and then took off.
Left.
Yes.
Someone in their basement or
attic or something
has an award in her name.
Yeah. So I thought that was a funny little story there, but let's get to some more information about the movie. I think it is safe to say that the climax of the movie The high point, both story-wise and cinematography-wise, is the moment of the fire.
The fire, yeah.
The scene lasts about 20 minutes. In order to film this 20 minutes long scene, a real fire was lit and obviously kept under control on the set of Fox Studios for 3 days. So it was massive. That made this movie one of the most expensive ones to have been filmed on the Fox set in that period of time, probably in the 30s.
We have computers for that now.
Yeah,
Less
we have.
expensive than real fire.
True.
Because you have to pay the fire, you know.
And I mean, just to keep it burning, and then you
Yeah.
have all the
Overtime hours for that fire too. Yeah.
right, and it has to be supervised non-stop because hey, you don't want it to go out of control. It's crazy, it's crazy. Wait, what? You were joking? Seriously though, very expensive scene to film. A lot of dedication was put into it, and it kind of paid off. It was impressive to watch the fire scene.
Yeah, it was, definitely.
Also filmed from different angles. So many people were, present on the set of the scene. It was spectacular.
One thing that this fire conversation is making me think of in terms of the characters, we're talking about the mom just now. I wish she had felt guilty a little bit. It was kind of her fault.
Yes. Yes, we haven't really seen that. I thought it would be interesting to talk about this while also presenting the difference between the real life events, the fire of 1871 versus what the movie showed us. So first off, the 1971 Great Chicago Fire did start in the bar of the O'Leary family, a real life O'Leary family.
Were they mayor and club owners?
A little bit of a different story there. First off, the names, other than the family name, the characters' names are altered from the real ones. One of the brothers was a club owner with shady morals and, his hands dipped into politics and other stuff like this. There was no mayor brother, though, in real life. As for the accounts of how the fire started, shortly after the event, a reporter published a story claiming that the fire was started by a lantern left unsupervised in a barn, and that's how it started.
Yeah, so that's how it is in the movie.
That's what we see in the movie. And even though he never named the person who was responsible for it, the people quickly identified Mrs. O'Leary as being the culprit, since the fire started from her barn, from her house. And that caused the people in general, the public opinion, to turn against her. She spent the rest of her life in the public eye being blamed for the events, which caused her great sadness and sorrow. She didn't have a very good life.
I can imagine.
20 years after he published the story, however, the reporter admitted to have fabricated it. He didn't actually have any proof
that it started in the barn?
That it was true. And the official reports on the fire say that there is no indication that human foul play was involved. It might have been just a spark for a chimney. It was a very windy night. Anything could have
started the fire.
And there's no way to know what. So a very sad story.
Ryan started the fire.
A very sad story here for the real life Mrs. O'Leary. So in that aspect, I think that since by the 1930s it was known that the story had been fabricated, I think it is good that they didn't actually put that in the story.
I mean, they still made it seem like it's her fault, She leaves the lantern unsupervised.
They make a clear point out of saying this is a fictionalized retale.
Yeah.
Even by changing the names of the characters, they don't claim at any point that this is what actually happened, but rather they tell the fictionalized story.
I guess, but in the beginning of the movie, when one of the son is telling the stable girl, never forget to put this stick between the leg of the cow, otherwise it's just gonna kick stuff, that's what this is for. And then the mom doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And it starts the fire. It kind of feels like the movie is telling you it's her fault. But I guess.
I also think that there is this element of the brother who kind of foretells it by saying that this neighborhood is hazardous.
Yeah,
that it's
a fire hazard.
Yes. And then it happens. I feel like that's not necessarily something that happens in real life,
Yeah, but that's always like that, and
In
these kind of
retrospect, you
movies
think,
that are about either real life events or real life people. There's always lines in there that like you would have never said that unless
yeah,
you knew.
exactly. Despite what we think of the movie, that it was kind of a not so successful imitation of
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
No, it's not a bad movie.
It is not a
It's
bad movie, and at the time it was highly appreciated.
Mm.
It received 6 Oscar nominations. So first off, it was nominated for Best Picture or Outstanding Production, as it was known back then, which it didn't win. It did, however, win, as I mentioned, the award for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. It also won for Best Assistant Director for Robert D. Webb. It was nominated for Best Writing Original Story for Niven Bush, Best Sound Recording for Edmund H. Hansen, and Best Music Scores for Louis Silvers.
Lots of nominations.
Yes, 6 nominations, 2 wins, very good performance. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
No, I feel like we've gone around every main topic.
And would you recommend this movie?
You know what? Yeah, I would, especially because of the last third of the movie, which I think is much stronger than the first 2/3. The fire scene alone, you gotta see the work that went into it. 3 days of fires.
Yeah, it was very interesting to watch. I would recommend it too, with the mention that maybe also watch San Francisco.
Yeah, definitely.
For comparison reasons, it's very interesting to watch these 2 movies back to back. And that being said, I think is it now time for us to rank this movie?
Yeah.
As you all might already know, every year we rank the movies that were nominated for Best Picture for that year according to our likings and preferences, and the list of the 1937 nominees as of now is at number 4, The Awful Truth, at number 3, The Good Earth, at number 2, Dead End, and at number 1, Captain's Courageous. Where would you put In Old Chicago on this list?
This year is going to be a difficult one because of one movie.
Because of one movie?
Yeah.
The Good Earth?
You know what I'm talking about, The Good Earth.
Yeah.
The Good Earth has one major issue.
And
but
a lot of good elements.
Otherwise a good movie.
Yeah.
And so it's always a question of, do I put it above or below The Good Earth?
Yeah, I think so too. The thing is that I would put it below The Good Earth, and I will tell you why. The issue with this movie is that the characters, for the most part, lack realism or lack something that makes them relatable.
The Good Earth does a better job story-wise. And you know what? You ask me right now, like 10 times in a row, which movie do I'd rather watch between The Good Earth and this? It's The Good Earth,
Yes, I think so too.
Every time. And so, in that sense, I guess there's no question that...
And in other
Yeah,
aspects, like cinematography-wise, I feel like the movies perform similarly. They both look good as movies. They're well put together. However, in this case, the story and the characters are not as strong as The Good Earth.
Yeah, there are certain characters in The Good Earth that I don't vibe with, but the story is definitely way behind. So yeah, I would say number 4 then.
So, the new ranking of the 1937 nominees as of now, and according to our likings and preferences, is at number 5, The Awful Truth, at number 4, In Old Chicago, at number 3, The Good Earth, at number 2, Dead End, and at number 1, Captain's Courageous.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, you're right, it's gonna be hard to put all the movies on this list when we're gonna have to compare them to The Good Earth. So, but I hope we'll do a good job. That was it for our review of the 1937 movie In Old Chicago. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like our video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, which is not just about reviewing movies. It's a bucket list channel, and we have so many different goals and dreams on our bucket list. Things like traveling, learning new things, self-growth, and we make videos about all of them and bring them all to you. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe if you want to follow us through our adventures. Also, don't forget, if you yourself have a goal or a dream that you want to accomplish, take that first step.
Bye.